Good morning, bro. I got your message that you wanted me to look at your last game. This is that game. But I wanted to look at it from your opponent's perspective. You played as black, your opponent played as white, and I think your opponent had a dominating position until he made one blunder move that ended up costing him the game. So we're going to look at it from his perspective, and I'm going to point out a couple things that I think you could improve on. Opening pawn e4, g6, knight f3, bishop g7. You're going for the King's Indian fianchetto, which I recommended to you earlier, and I'm surprised that you've been following it. Your rating has gone up substantially just by doing that one opening, and I think you're getting the hang of it overall. Pawn d4, e6, bishop e2. White is opening for the castle. Knight e7, you're opening the castle as well. White castles, black castles, bishop g5. So this is the first piece of advice in the game that I'd like to point out. The bishop on g5 is an annoyance move. It's to pin this knight so that you can't move your queen. And the whole purpose of that is to annoy you into making you move these pawns. That is not what you want to do. You do not want to move those pawns by your king unless you absolutely have to. So try to keep these where they are. A better move to defend this knight rather than pushing these pawns is simply to move the knight on b8 to c6. Then you're defending your knight and you're not opening your king up to attack. You do push your pawn. He moves his bishop back, and again he's hoping that you move this pawn forward, which unfortunately you do. So now you have opened yourself up here on the white diagonal. And white's simple strategy from this point would just be to line his white bishop up and his queen to go in for the mate. He moves his bishop back, and you'll see just right now that white is much better off. He has more pieces developed. He's controlling the middle of the board. You bring out knight to c6, c3, b6, h4. He's wanting to open up these pawns for a kingside attack. G to h4. Takes with his bishop. Again, pinning your knight. f6. Queen d2. Bishop b7. This is the second piece of advice. I used to do this a lot in the beginning. I would play a King's Indian, and then I would also bring the bishop out on the other side. And overall, it's just recommended not to do that. It's hard to attack from while opening up both sides like that. White's bishop to d3, again, following that strategy. You bring your knight out to the side, and one of the previous videos I mentioned knights are least effective on the side of the board, so another move would have been better. That was kind of a waste. He pushes his pawn to b4, kicking your knight back to c6. Bishop g3. Now he's going after this pawn while leaving his bishop in a nice little cozy spot over here. h5, I don't know what this move was. You are essentially moving your pawn to a location it's not defended. you're opening up your king, and I think what your strategy may have been is to move this king over so that you can bring the bishop and then attack the queen. But you don't want to move your king. You want to keep him in his own little corner, cozy, safe. You don't want to bring him out unless you have to. And that strategy wouldn't work because he has his bishop here on white to attack. Now he's moved his queen over. He's going for that pawn. Instead of defending the pawn, you're moving your knight to block it. Now your knight is going to be in attack of this bishop, and his queen is still attacking your pawn. He moves the knight out, so now he can take the pawn. Instead of defending the pawn, you defend the knight. A better move would have been just to take the knight, and then you could defend that pawn. Let's see here. Queen e8, he takes the pawn. Now we have two attacking the knight. You have to take his knight, which you do. He comes back with a queen. Now if we stop and pause and we look at the positions, he has control of this file, and his bishop is nicely positioned here. So right now, white's in a better position overall. You bring your queen to c6, or I'm sorry, g6. Now you're trying to take control, defend. He took your pawn that was not defended. Now he's up in material. You move your king to f7. I see the strategy there. You want to move your king out so that you can bring your rook over here to attack the queen. Bishop e2. Rook h8. Now he's going to move his queen, but he doesn't. So that was his blunder move. Up to this point, white is actually leading in material and position. He could have simply moved his queen out of the way, protecting his pawn, attacking you, and I would say he would win the game in this position. But he made a big blunder, and he gave up his bishop for free. And at that point, he resigned. So hopefully you gained some more insight. Overall, I think your progress is pretty good. I'm surprised. In fact, let's see here. So there's quite a bit of wins. Much better than before. So yeah, keep up the good work.